Hey guys, and welcome to the latest edition of Training with Honor TV, where today I've got a fantastic guest. It's a footballing starlet. He's had a fantastic career so far, and he's now gone into the route of coaching. It's Mr. Dan Toyer. Dan, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you very much, Chris. How are we?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. So, Dan, for the guys that are watching the podcast, just want to give them a bit of a background as to who you are and your background, bud.
Yeah, so I've been a footballer at Cambridge for a total of 8 years. I had a short spell in between where I was at Stevenage. Sadly, I came about a few injuries towards the back end of my scholarship, which had me out for the majority of it. But now I'm flying, I'm all fit, I'm all set, I'm pretty much ready to go into the non-league avenue, semi-pro, and I've started up a coaching business as well to hopefully keep me going.
That's absolutely fantastic. I'll tell you one thing that's really good, Dan, is the fact that you've battled your injuries, and having spoken to a few professionals in the past, they've struggled to transition from being a footballer to the real world, I suppose. And the fact that you've set up your coaching company is fantastic. I mean, how have you found the transition so far?
Yeah, so the transition's been quite interesting, to be fair, because obviously at the minute we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's obviously a lot different to what other players would experience during their transition. So I went about and started up Toyer trainings to hopefully keep me going. Obviously, now that I'm coming away from the club, and obviously people at the minute can see each other one-to-one, obviously 2 meter rule and all stuff like that.
Definitely.
So it was almost a blessing in disguise in a way to like just get it going, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
just to get it going, see where I can go, and then like I've got a few different like streams I'd like to go down hopefully, and it's just playing it day by day, hopefully just keep putting out content, keep growing, and just seeing where I can go with it.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. And the most, and I suppose the reason you've managed to make such a good transition is because you've had a vision, right? You've always had it in the back.
Yeah, I've always had a vision. Yeah,
exactly what you want to do.
I've always had a bit of a vision.
So sort of talk us through how you got into playing, because I mean, obviously, a lot of the guys that are watching this are either young athletes wanting to get into becoming a professional athlete, or some people are, or some of them might be coaches wanting to watch. So just talk to us a bit about your journey from getting scouted at Cambridge United, and then sort of like a day-to-day life of a footballer, basically, or as a YT.
Yeah, so my story goes back a long time. Obviously, I'm 18 at the minute. I'm pretty sure I started playing football around 7. I only played for like my village team at the time. And Cambridge actually have like a 3-tier system. So it starts off with like their development squad, and then it goes to the shadow squad, and then it goes to the academy. So when I was about 7 years old, I joined the development squad. I was there for about a year, and I was coached by Jimmy Unwin, who is now my coach at the youth team at Cambridge, which is quite a cool little,
transition, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then I was in the development squad for about 2 seasons, and then I was then promoted into the shadow squad. So I remember coming home one day, obviously my parents telling me the news, I was over the moon. And then I was there for about a year. And during that year as well, I played for Histon, who are like an EGA team, just like for a couple months. Yeah. And I ended up then playing in a tournament for, I think the team was Shelford. It might have been Shelford and Staples, but I think it was just Shelford at the time, I think. And this tournament was based in Nebworth, which is just outside of Stevenage. And I was about 10 years old at the time, under 9, under 10, I can't actually remember. And I remember like I did really well in the tournament. I think I got top goal scorer. We won the tournament. Might have got players. I can't remember. I just really enjoyed the tournament, and I remember it still to this day, like really enjoying it.
That's great.
And then I'm pretty sure, obviously, because it was in Nebworth and it was near Stevenage, there were Stevenage scouts there, and I think one of them approached my dad. I think, I'm not 100% sure, or got into contact with me, and I ended up then going down to Stevenage, having a trial for a couple of weeks, got signed, and then I was there for about 2 years. But obviously I'm a Cambridge lad, so for me to get to Stevenage I was going there 4 times a week, and it was an hour there and an hour back.
Oh, blimey.
So obviously, yeah, exactly. So it was quite the trek. We made it work for about 2 years, but it got to the point where I needed to come away, and obviously I had to explain to them, obviously, that the distance is too far, stuff like that. They tried to sort something, but it just didn't really work. And it made sense to then go to Cambridge, because obviously 15-minute drive, if that, and they trained very locally to me. So obviously we had to then break the news to Stevenage that I needed to come away, and obviously I went to Cambridge. And there was the transition wasn't like rough, but like Stevenage were looking for compensation for me. But at the time, obviously, I was only 13 years old. So yeah, that was quite like eventful, and I'm really appreciative towards Cambridge for getting that sorted. I can't really remember like off the top of my head what the terms and agreements were or whatever. But I'm just like, I do appreciate that they managed to get it sorted, because I wasn't allowed to train for about a couple of weeks whilst this was all going on.
This is what people don't understand, isn't it? That, you know,
it's crazy.
When you are attached to a club, because obviously you go in there, you might sign as a YT, but at the moment there's so much politics involved with it, and you just have to look at the likes of. You go back a few years to like when Raheem Sterling had left QPR to go to Liverpool, they were still doing that like 5-6 years later.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, Dan, with that is a lot of clubs are almost don't want to miss out on these payments, because you see a lot of the players nowadays who they leave a club, a smaller club at a young age, and then they go on to make it big, and then by the time, let's say Cambridge, you had someone like Chelsea had come in for you for £2.5 million, for example. Stevenage, of course, want at least 250k of that. So they've got, I suppose, on that that side, they're sort of covering it. And you know, when it's a young age, it's a lot of pressure, isn't it, to take as a youngster? So I mean, what sort of support? What sort of support network did you have there? Did you have like player welfare officers to support you with it, or was it mainly just friends and family that sort of helped you with it?
So this was obviously when I was 13. So I'm still amazed by the fact that I was 13 and clubs that was wanting money for me and all stuff like that. I didn't really understand it at the time. And to be fair, I don't really have a very great understanding of it. Again, I really appreciate Cambridge for getting it sorted. In terms of like support and stuff, this was going back like a couple of years ago, and I'd only just joined the academy. So obviously I didn't really know much about all the support in terms of club wise, but now that I'm 17, 18, like throughout my scholarship, we've had loads of talks, to do with like player welfare and all stuff like that. So back then, at the time when this was all going on, I didn't really think much of it, but obviously I've got a very supportive family around me. So obviously they helped me get through it. And then it got to the point where all of it was done. I then trained for about 2 seasons. I wouldn't say I struggled, but like I was in a position where like going into like the under 15 season, I wasn't actually sure if I was going to get a contract or not, because technically I've always been quite a good player, but in terms of size, I've not been the biggest. So I got myself a personal trainer, and this is kind of what links into why I started my Toya training stuff. So I got myself a personal trainer. I think it was around when I was about 14. No, it was when I was 13. So in the under 14 season. And I got a personal trainer, and within about the space of about a year, just almost pushing towards 2 years, like I was absolutely flying. I remember like this was in the under 15 season. So when you're in under 15, you play for the under 16s, like the age groups are combined together.
Okay.
And I remember like it got to the point where I would start on the bench, and then obviously I did all these extra work behind the scenes, obviously no one knew about, with this personal trainer, like getting my movements correct, getting fitter. And they got to the point where I was then starting games, and I was probably getting a goal or an assist like every other game. And so this was in the under 15 season. And then towards the end of the season, we had like reviews. So obviously I'm an under 15, and obviously this is the age group that like basically determines whether or not you're going to get a scholarship or not.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to, when I was an under 15, to get my scholarship a year early. And obviously that I was down to getting a trainer, putting in extra hours, being like just doing what needed to be done to push myself to get to a position where I was going to earn my scholarship. Shout out to Mitfit. That was my personal trainer. Shout out to Mitfit. He was my personal trainer at the time.
So get full he's in the Cambridgeshire region, right?
Yeah. So that kind of leads on to like why I started Toya training, because I feel like if lads who are my age and trying to push towards a scholarship or any sort of goal in their career, putting in that extra work and just putting in hours and what I've always like been around, especially my coaches, they've always said about 1%. So like adding layers to your game.
100.
So if lads that are about 13, 14 my age can do that, and they're doing more than what the rest of them are doing, then they're going to put themselves in such a great position in order to get that scholarship, which is ultimately the goal they're all looking for. So
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the fact that you've gone out your way to get that extra percentage, like you say, that speaks volumes in terms of how much you want to do it. And, you know, and you go out and you seek the advice of people that can help you. And one of the things, you've probably got this now, Dan, from your current client base, is a lot of parents and a lot of adults, there's a lot of controversy at the moment as to when youth players should start doing any form of training, whether it's strength training, cardiovascular endurance training, and you know, just the fact that you'd employed a personal trainer at a young age to give you that additional push has, you know, to an extent, obviously it's not wholly down to him, but it's giving you that additional push to gain your scholarship and there. And so, you know, creating that environment is crucial, right? In terms of you know, because I think they say the stats say that if you are the equivalent of the 5 people that you're a bit of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So if you're with 5 people who live, breathe, sleep football, you're virtually guaranteed you're going to be on the right track, because this is where accountability comes in, doesn't it? I mean, when you were playing, what sort of testing did you endure, and sort of how often did you endure the testing to sort of keep yourself accountable for your progression?
Yeah, so in terms of testing, obviously, I can't really remember when my first kind of testings were, but obviously from a young age, probably I'd say like under 13 onwards.
Yeah.
The only kind of tests we ever did were like the bleep test on a training night or something like that, which obviously no one really likes doing the bleep test, but we had to do it.
Give us push-ups and squats any day.
Yeah, so that was the only really form of test I did probably up until about 16, and then when I started my scholarship, obviously that's when the gym side of it kind of comes in.
Yeah.
And in the gym we would do like all sorts, obviously, like it'd be like max reps, and then it'd be pull-ups, dips, hamstring exercises. It was like most exercises and then like just max reps pretty much. We also then did, obviously the max reps was like very endurance and all stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in terms of strength, we would then do 1 rep max on like chest press, for example, and things like that. But that didn't really come into play until about 16 in my youth team years. So
yeah, and I suppose is that mainly because of the staffing sort of situation, whereas I suppose you get to like 16 plus, I suppose this is where they're going to introduce the sports science departments and the S&C. I mean, with that, a League 2 club like Cambridge, what sort of exposure did you have to like big teams? Because I know that, of course, Premier Leagues, you see the Man Cities and like they've got like 5, 6, 7, 8 S&C coaches. What sort of staffing were you looking at as a player? Did you feel like you had enough staff around you to sort of get the most out?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, totally. I remember Cambridge being, in terms of having links to big clubs and stuff, we actually had showcase games every couple months when we were under 15, 16, and I got to play against Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, all on the first team stadium. So the links that they have, they are very impressive. They're going on to the point about like the staff. There's the first team staff. I can't remember how like numbers wise and stuff, but obviously the under 16s pretty sure had a sports scientist, and the youth team had one. Then you have an analysis. Like there was a large amount of staff.
Yeah.
Like, not that you were spoiled for choice, but you did, like, if you had a question, you knew who you were going to. You didn't always have to go to the coach of the team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was quite lucky with that, to be fair, and they were very knowledgeable and helped me progress physically for sure, because I've definitely put on size in the last 2 years throughout my injuries and stuff.
That's pretty awesome. And so in terms of getting your size and everything, because a lot of people, this is still a question that I get from professional athletes that are like 25, 30 at the moment. They always wonder what do I need to do to gain muscle, because I mean, you look at Akinfenwa, for example, the beast, massive
He's a
guy.
different breed.
He's unreal, isn't he? Huge guy.
Yeah.
You watch him on Instagram and he's benching. He must be benching 200 kg all the time. And you know, a lot of people have got the preconception of, right, I've got to go and lift, I've got to lift heavy to get massive. But what sort of thing? I mean, what sort of changes did you make down to your type of training just to increase your mass? Was it more diet based, or did you or did you find that it was things like your recovery and your recovery strategies?
Yeah, so I think I'd say the main thing was, because obviously during my scholarship I was injured for the majority, so I wasn't really like burning any calories, if that makes sense, because obviously everyone was training 4 times a week and then a game as well, so they're doing about 5 days a week of intense exercise, whereas at the time I couldn't really do any exercise because of the problems I was having with my hip and stuff. So I'd say the main reason for how I put on a bit of size, and to be fair, it went to plan. Like, I did put on size because I wasn't burning any calories, so I was doing gym and not burning calories. So in a way, that's basically bulking. But obviously, I didn't really, because obviously I wasn't qualified at the time. I only did my level 3 PT and then my NASAM specialist courses towards like the end of it. So yeah, I'd say the main reason for putting on size for me was being in the gym every day, because I couldn't actually go out and play football because of my injury, and not exerting the calories that others were. To be fair, I did get a little bit, I wouldn't say fat, I'd say a little bit fluffy. In terms of how I, I'd say the word
fluffy. In the face of fluffy as well.
Yeah, so like just like around the body, like I was a bit fluffy, and like I could kind of tell that the coaches could kind of see it a little bit. It's kind of expected. Like I wasn't going through like hard times, but like my eating wasn't great, and the fact that obviously I wasn't burning many calories as well wasn't ideal. But I've recently, exactly. Like mentally, it is quite a tough experience, especially if you go through like the one that I went through with the injuries and stuff, which is quite an unfortunate one. But yeah, I'd say gym and a lack of calorie output and energy output is probably why I put on my size. And then so obviously I was a bit fluffy, and then I managed to, thankfully, I've done a diet recently where I've cut out a bit, and I'm in a position where I'm feeling fit. I'm happy with how I'm looking and stuff, and I'm pretty much ready to go for football wise when the non-league teams are allowed to resume, which I think is hopefully going to be around September time. I read a statement earlier yesterday morning, I think. So fingers crossed.
We've got an exclusive here, because I think we're still up in the northwest. We haven't got a clue when we're going yet, so that's great. So fingers crossed, mate. It's going to be that sort of time. Well, obviously before we came on, we had a bit of a chat about for future plans and everything like that, and it's great that you've managed to sort of plan ahead, I suppose, isn't it? And you've used the lockdown period really effectively. So tell us about sort of what your future plans are in terms of what sort of level do you see yourself playing at, and sort of what have you got in the pipeline?
Yeah, so obviously I've come away from Cambridge now, so I've got, like I said earlier, I've got a few trials in place going into pre-season at a few semi-pro teams. I'm only 18, and I definitely feel like I've got a lot of growing left in me.
100%.
Like, I reckon I've got another 2-3 years of growing, so I want to kind of get that done. So I reckon what I'll do is I'll play semi-pro. I'm probably going to start off at around step 4, step 5, and then hopefully prove myself at each step and work my way back up. By that time, hopefully I would have finished growing. I'll be at a position where physically I can compete, and then hopefully go from there and just see the best level I can in terms of football that I can play. And then alongside it, I'm looking to obviously do my toy training stuff. So I do mobile personal training, which is obviously at the minute gyms are shut. So mobile personal training.
Tell about that, mate. I can tell about that. Special mics on me anyway.
Exactly. So mobile personal training is basically, because I've got all the gym equipment that you need for a personal training session, and obviously I like working with people, hopefully to put them towards a goal that they're looking to, especially during this time. Not many people have many things to do. So yeah, I've got the mobile PT side, which I may or may not take into a gym when they open up and work like in a commercial gym, for example, and hopefully take toy training in there. But the football side of it, like one-to-one football coaching, conditioning, is always going to stay the same. So yeah, I'm just looking really for the next couple of years just to do that, I reckon.
Sounds absolutely perfect. So what's motivating you, Dan, at the minute to get you going? Obviously, you've had a bit of, probably safe to say, you've had a bit of a rough 3 months. Obviously, being released by Cambridge, big boost in terms of how well your coaching business is going. You know, tell us more about Toya Training, because obviously you're working with a number of age groups from what I can see.
Yeah.
You know, what's the key message that you're looking to get out there, apart from obviously using your own experiences to transfer over to the young athletes?
Yeah, so I'd say that, like you just said, like the main motivation for me in terms of Toya Training is obviously I went through the experience of getting a trainer and that trainer helped me get to where I needed to be.
Yeah.
So if I can do what I experienced with a number of other aspiring footballers, then like what more could you really want? Like the feeling of knowing that I've helped God knows how many people hopefully progress, get a contract, scholarships, all stuff like that. It's happy. In terms of like motivation for like myself at the minute, obviously I'm just raring to go football wise. Like I've got a plan in place. Like I'm doing gym 4 times a week, 3 football sessions, 3 runs. Like I'd say physically and in terms of fitness, it's one of the best I've been, because I've only I started. When did I start doing my fitness stuff? About start of March or middle of March. So since then, I've been doing this my program. Like I'm pushing close to that sub 25k. I'm hoping that's going to come soon. So
it's coming, mate.
Yeah.
You're doing a London Marathon when it's safe to do so, right?
Oh, I'd love to do a marathon. Hopefully one day.
Oh, why not? Well, the world's your oyster. There's not, you're driven. You know what you want to do. So just to sort of round it up a bit, Dan, I mean, where can people find out a bit more about you? And for the guys that are in Cambridge, how can they get in touch with you, with your coaching?
Yeah, so I have a personal Instagram and Twitter. Obviously, that's under my name, Dan Toya. And then LinkedIn as well, if you want to see what licenses, experience, certifications, all stuff like that, I'm over on there. In terms of Toya Training, it's on Instagram and Facebook. So if you just put Toya Training into the searches on there, you'll find that. And then I've just sorted out my website as well for Toya Training, which I'm very happy with. So that's now live as well. So yeah, you can find me across most platforms, to be fair.
Sounds absolutely brilliant, mate. Well, guys and girls around Cambridge should get in touch with Dan. He's a wealth of knowledge. Dan, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show today, and I really do appreciate your time. And I wish you well going forward.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Chris. Cheers.
No worries, buddy.